What's up, guys? Drago here. Coming at you with a deck profile. I got 17th on the Carta Magica June 29th online regional with Newgate himself. So figured I'd do one last like EB/EB1.5 deck profile for the deck I decided to play. Honestly, it was a last minute choice. I wasn't really excited to play EB 1.5. I even skipped out on Mesquite to do some other things that weekend. And so when I realized I was still in this event, I was like, well, Whitebeard seems fun. So decided to play it. My buddy Faye let me borrow this playmat in the max rarity deck. I had all the cards, but not as pretty as him. And so I figured I'd just give an update, go over my matchups, and just give y'all the list. So we'll start with the Straw Hat package. Obviously, we're going to have 4 Nami. Basic Searcher. Really important to see turn 1. We want to go first every time. And I think I went first literally every match. I didn't win every die roll, but a lot of people took second versus me, which I liked. I wanted to go first. I think versus every matchup except for like one, I saw at least a 1-drop to play turn 1. And so you use that a lot of the time because you end up going 5-6 turn 2. If I had Machina in hand, I would go 6, see if they would take or not. A lot of the time they would just take, I guess because they're expecting 5 or maybe some other play. And then I would punish them with Machina, swing 7 with Nami, something like that. And it put me in a lot of really good spots. But this is mainly searching for your defensive utility. It's going to be searching for Robin, which I have 2 of. This is mainly to pop some searchers, but mainly Rebecca. And sometimes in certain matchups, if I didn't have a 1-drop but I had her in hand, I would play her just so I had that pressure turn 2. And I did do that, I believe, round 6 or 7. For Sanji, mainly a 2K counter, but I did play it versus the Nami round 9. It honestly did really well. At one point, he overheated and bounced his Kaya, but then changed his target to Sanji, and I let it ride. I don't know. It probably mattered. I'm not tripping about it, but like looking back on it, Sanji's 7K swing to do it twice would have been really nice. And I'm not regretting that I played Sanji turn 2 and like had it set up. For Rad Beam, pretty standard, insane defensive utility for Whitebeard. For Rush Luffy, this card is a godsend. It won me the game versus Udo last round, who bricked really hard. Not much to say. 5 or 6 rush. Most of the time, you'll just play it. If you have multiple, you're super chilling. You just want to play it and just swing because you'll just put another one down anyway. And then 2 Bad Manners Kick Course, really just to help thin out a lot of the bricks you have in the deck, like Luffy and a couple others. So that's it for the Straw Hat package. Pretty straightforward, and pretty much exclusively defensive utility aside from Luffy. And then we'll move on to the Whitebeard part of the build. And so obviously for Izo, Searcher helps be aggressive. That's why you have Machina. You want to play it turn 1. Not much to say. Really clutch. Try to fill out your curve based on what you already have in hand, and it's good. Speed Jill, this is mainly just another searchable target. It's playable versus green or decks like Black Yellow Luffy. It's a decent body, but I didn't actually play it or research it this weekend. It was just a 1K in hand a couple times. For Jozu, pretty straightforward, searchable 2K. The rush can come in handy. Round 6 when I played Rave TCG and I lost. My only play was to go 6 lead. I think had 2 life and like 4 cards in hand or something like that. And I can really only play Jozu, Rush Luffy from hand. So I had to go 5-6-6. And he actually only had 1K total counter that he had since the beginning because I went 6x5 technically. And but he had the 1K. It wasn't in his life, so it didn't matter, thankfully. Or like I lost, but can be clutch to just rush, but usually just a 2K. For Marco, this is pretty interesting card. I actually think I only played it once, and it was versus Nami. It popped the Kaya, and then I tried to use it as a swinger in the late game, and I did, but it didn't quite matter. The Nami, we'll go over that matchup and what happened there later. But obviously, this is really good into black. You just get to save it as often as you want. Good sticky body, but if I have like a Luffy instead, or as you'll later see, a Kid Killer, usually I just play it. And then 4 ace, really clutch card. Most of the time, I think I saw it on 7 Dawn very frequently. I think I only missed it versus the Moria round 6. Everything else, I think I was able to play it on 7 Dawn. What can I say? Most of the time, they didn't even have a board to contest me, so I didn't really clear board with this. But it's just 7k rush versus the 3 red purple laws. Every time it basically made a kid die because they couldn't like counter 2k. Really good card. Not much to say there. And then only 3 Whitebeards. I think 4 is a bit overkill. It's a little too bricky at times. Not 3 felt perfect. Most of the time you're using to lock out the game versus either Enel or red purple law, and that's exactly what happened in my matchup. So we'll go over that in a bit. So that's it for the Whitebeard package. And then to wrap it up, we have the non-searchable but like really staple cards in the deck as well. And so we have 4 Makino, 2k, also really good to pump up your searchers, your 1-drops, Izo and Nami and Robin to just get a lot of pressure in. As I mentioned earlier, there was tons of matchups where I would go 6 with lead because I had a Makino in hand, and they would take, or most of the time they would just take. And then I'm like, okay, get punished, and Makino give the 2 Dawn, and Nami swing 7. And it felt great. It was amazing. Can't say more good things about Makino. Then I have 2 Shiraya. Shiraya is a pretty interesting choice for the deck. I think it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we do need a little bit of defensive capabilities. This is primarily for the Black-Yellow Luffy matchup. It can help with Yamato as well, and certain decks like Moria sometimes. But I did get to see this versus Black-Yellow Luffy round 8, and it was insanely clutch. I swung 7-9-7 with this, was able to keep it alive because it keeps the power of the copied leader like when he swings until my next turn. So there was at the end of the game, I swung 9, he stayed at 9. His only choice was to try to kill Shiraya, so I had less attackers. Because he was a 9k, it was pretty easy to defend. He was only at 7k, and then Shiraya was really clutch. And so I liked it too. I think it's a good 2 of. It's a 1k counter worst case. Pretty situational blocker, can help you go for game, especially versus decks like Black-Yellow Luffy. Don't regret running him at all. And then 3 Kitten Killers. Amazing card. I actually didn't get to play it as much as I think I saw it. I think I saw it a ton, and there was just a ton of times where like I just won before needing to play this. But this made it to where like there were so many times where there was no chance my opponent could survive my lethal, because I would have like 1 or 2 Kitten Killer in hand, and it just so happened like they died before I could even play it. And then, so that's the list, and I guess I'll just go over my matchups just real briefly. So round 1 was versus a Katakuri. Wasn't too crazy. He bricked pretty hard, no crazy triggers. I curved out decently well, and I won. Round 2 was versus Blue Doffy. I played around pudding by playing an early Makino and Robin in my hand, because I think that was like one of the few times I didn't find a searcher. But I did have Rush Luffy, Rush Ace on curve. Don't remember if I played a 9-beard or not, but I pretty much just was able to curve out with rushers, swing really efficiently. They weren't able to use pudding. They weren't able to really like get a board. I think they leader ability once, and it was like a 5k. So just kind of ran over them. Round 3 was an Enel. I locked them out of the game with an ace on board. Oh, this is a wrong pile. With an ace on board, and I got to triple chain 9-beard. At one point, I wasn't going to do the chain, and then they were able to play like another heal, which I didn't think they'd have the other heal, but at that point I had 3 9-beard. Their beige trigger didn't matter. I think in hand I had double Kitten Killer, or at least 1. I had like 4 swings to their 1 life or whatever. They had no cards in hand anymore. Newgate was really clutch because Yamato can't really contest it. It kept me at 2 life. I had a couple cards in hand. If they wanted to heal because they needed to because my board was so threatening, then my life wasn't really getting pressured, and neither was Newgate. Then after that was my first red purple law. Pretty standard. I think I chained 2 Newgate, ace on curve, dealt with Kid very easily. -3k to Kid. They were already at 1 or 2 life thanks to the pressure of like Makino and my 1-drop swings, and also like Luffy on curve. And so Kid would die, they would just go low, and eventually I just had a bunch of rushers and just finish it out. Round 5 was another law. It was slightly closer. I think towards the end of the game he had 1 card in hand, 2 life, and I had to go something like 6, 7, 8, and he only had 2 1Ks after he took all those life. But it was pretty close, but it was the same thing, really. Just I played a 1-drop, whichever one it was. A lot of the time I got the Makino stuff versus the laws, so I would go 6, they would take, and then I would do Makino swing 7. And I think for this one, he specifically gave me a 2K and a 1K, which is so good for me because he's already at 3 life and he just gave me 2 cards. Next turn I played Luffy. Next turn I played Ace. Turn after that, I think I Whitebearded once, or maybe it was just like another Ace, something like that. Then round 6 was the Moria matchup versus Wraith. I saw Robin, no searcher turn 1. Turn 2, I went 6-6, play a Nami searcher that I drew. And then I saw no Luffy and no Ace. And at the end of the game, he has 2 life, like 3 or 4 cards in hand. And I go 6-6. So I swing 6 with leads, play a Rush Luffy, swing 6. Play Jozu, swing 5. Obviously, in hindsight, it should be 5-6-6. But he did have the 1K in hand. But I think the 2 life were bricks, and every other card in his hand was a brick. So if I would have top decked a Kid and Killer or a second Luffy, I would have straight up won with 6-6-6, which is kind of crazy because I had no mid game. But it was a good game. I think he played really well considering that his hand was super bricked. How he played with Kuzan and how he was chipping at me was really good. Then round 7 was another red-purple law. This one was pretty standard as well. Searcher, turn 2, got to swing twice. Turn 3, played Luffy and swung. Turn 4 was Ace, and then I chained 2 9-beards, and he just couldn't do anything. I was super ahead on board. I had 2 life. I had 6 or 7 cards still. Double chain Newgate. He was at low Dawn. It was pretty easy from there. Then round 8 was a black yellow Luffy, and when I sat down, I was pretty scared. Pretty sure black yellow Luffy does really well into Whitebeard, unless we can play a Luffy or like a unblockable Luffy early and just have it stick. I was not able to do that, and it basically came down to the end of the game. I decided I didn't know what to do. I know what to do as other decks, but as Whitebeard, it just didn't make sense to me to not swing into him, especially given my hand. So I went really aggro, forced him to lose cards early. He was able to do leader effect 3 times, but the last time, his last turn, he used it, played a Sabo. So his leader was only at 7K, but he had 2 Sabos, 1 blocker, and off that Sabo pitch, to have 3 cards left in hand, he pitched a Flampe 2K and a Moria. Eventually, I go with my swings, and my last swing is an 8, and he actually had a brick in hand. So instead of trashing both Morias that he had, he decided to trash a 2K, thinking that there's a potential that I could have walled up with another 9-beard. In hindsight, obviously that was a mistake because that would have won in the game to have that extra 2K. But I think I understand his perspective because if I did have a 9-beard, I probably would have been able to wall up and then I just win for sure the next turn. But the Moria would potentially stop that. But we take those. Shiraya was super clutch, like I mentioned earlier. It swung constantly. It blocked the first turn it was out, and then after that, it just kept swinging for 7, 9, 7 with no Dawn investment. So always required a card out of hand. It was super good. Then round 9 was Nami. I think I curved out decently well. I don't know if I played this matchup perfect, to be honest. Haven't played versus Nami in forever. I don't like the deck, and I know Nami does pretty well into Whitebeard. But this guy also saw 4 draw triggers, which all of them essentially thinned his deck by 2. One was Peel Off, one was Rubber Band of Doom, one was Spada, and one was Impel Down All Stars. But I think the real killer was, I don't remember if it was on my 7. I think this is the one matchup I went second. Something like that. Maybe it was on my 9 Dawn turn. I go like 7 lead, play Ace, 7 lead, and he takes, and it's his second to last life. So he's going down to 1 life. Trigger, Death Wing, bounce Ace back to hand. The game went 1 or 2 turns after. I think I probably misplayed those late turns because he was already low on hand size and he still had a good chunk of deck left. But if we're being realistic, those 4 triggers and then especially Deathwing to bounce back Ace was brutal. He also saw the one of Raging Blade or Gravity Blade to bottom deck 2 Rush Luffys that I played because I believe I went on 5 play Rush Luffy, on 7 play Rush Luffy, swing 6, 7, 7, something like that. And then on 9 I played the Ace after he Gravity Bladed my Luffy's, and that's when Deathwing triggered, and that was pretty brutal. Again, I think I probably could have done something different in those next, I think, 1 to 2 turns I had. I definitely had at least 2 turns to swing at him after that bounce, but pretty good trigger there. But it happens when it's your day. It's your day. He ended up getting 4th, and good to him. And then the last round was an Uda that bricked stupid hard. I think he was at 0 life by my 7 Dawn turn. The next turn, I had 2 Luffy's on board already. He can only kill 1 with a backlight. He was at 0 life. Good amount of cards in hand, but I had no choice. I put 9 Dawn on Luffy, unblockable, and he had 2K in counter, and I think he had like 8 cards in hand. Think, generally speaking, Uda does really good into us because it's just a wall deck, and we can't really deal with Kid and all the blockers they have. But when they had no counter, and they were only able to play like 1 blocker, but I was playing like double Luffy, and I got really aggressive with my 1-drops, and they had like legit no counter. Like I think on my 7 Dawn turn, I played the second Luffy, and I went like 6-6. I went 6. He took. I went 6. He gave me 2 1s, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna swing 6 with the Luffy I'm about to play and play like a searcher and get more utility as well. It was pretty brutal. I feel bad for him. But yeah, that's basically my run, and that's the deck list. That's how I ended up getting 17th in the final EB format. I think Whitebeard was pretty good this format. I probably like the upper echelon of tier 2, maybe tier 1.5. I think it gets a lot more rough in 07. I think Bonnie probably has a really good matchup into us. Boa probably does pretty good into us. Blue Doffy probably does good into us with the new tools. And then same with Lucci. Lucci does, I can't imagine Lucci does bad into Whitebeard. You get to remove everything while creating an insane board and being a 5 life leader that's naturally tanky. And then trying to think of the other leaders. I mean, Vegapunk, whatever. Foxy, whatever. Dragon, whatever. But the 3 new ones are really good. Reputable Law gets more support, like another blocker and a 2K, so that just makes that matchup even slightly harder. But overall, like I wouldn't be surprised if Whitebeard tops in 07. I don't know if I'll be playing Whitebeard much, if at all, at 07. I have to see what I play at Nats now that I got my invite. But I was pretty happy with the run. Big shout outs to all my play partners and test partners, Philly, Jerry, X, Alto, Faye for the deck and the list, and the advice, Viet, always believing in me. And yeah, just really happy with my support group. Happy to have another invite go to the city of Austin. And I'm really excited for Nats. So I hope y'all like this. And if you have any questions, just feel free to comment and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. See ya.